Welcome into the JP and Hack Show, part of the Field of 12 Media Network, sponsored by Bet Rivers Sportsbook, joined by my guy, Christian Hackenberg, the all-star quarterback out of Penn State. I am merely Joshua Perry, and we have a fun show lined up for you guys. Hack, how's it going, bro?
It's going, man. Excited about the rundown, excited about the weekend coming up. I think we learned a lot about some guys this past weekend too. So excited to get into it with you, bro.
Yeah, no, I mean, we got some great recaps. We learned a ton about some teams this weekend. So I'm excited to see what this upcoming weekend holds, but I'll run through these scores and then we'll talk about some games real quick. Starting off with Illinois, they played Thursday night, blank Chattanooga 31-0. Michigan beat Maryland 34-27. That was a really good football game. Penn State just kind of playing steady football right now, 33-14 over Central Michigan. Minnesota 34, Michigan State 7. I was on the call for that game. It wasn't close from the freaking first snap. Cincinnati beat Indiana 45-24. Iowa beat Rutgers 27-10. A lot of defense in that game from Iowa. Miami of Ohio, man. Northwestern is struggling, 17-14, the score of that one. Ohio State coming out fast in the first quarter against Wisconsin, and they get the win 52-21. And Purdue in a sticky game with FAU 28-26. I want to start off with the noon window there. The game that I thought was going to have the second most intrigue, and it ended up being the most intriguing game of the weekend to me, was that Michigan-Maryland game. And I'll start off by saying this, and then we can get into it. If Maryland has a returner that can field the opening kickoff, the outcome of the game may be different. I'll just start with that right there. Michigan was tested, and I love the way that they responded in that football game. But boy, that ended up being maybe the biggest break in the game, and it happened in the first 3 seconds.
Yeah, you spotted them 7 points, and that's something you can't do going in to go and try and beat a really good football team. You can't sustain self-inflicted wounds that early. To Maryland's credit, they bounced back. It's funny you bring this up because there's a couple of those moments where I think JJ had those young guy, rookie mistakes that really kind of hurt down there in the red zone, takes a huge sack, puts him into like third and a country mile. You know, he's got it back sometimes throughout the game. He got him back every once in a while, but it's just good test for him. Happy they figured it out. I think, but you make a really astute point there with Maryland basically spotting them 7, because Maryland played really well. Unlike the Maryland that we saw the past couple of years when they stepped into these types of games, they executed. Talia came out and played winning football in my eyes. So this Maryland team, man, I think they're finally starting to turn the corner. It's taken a couple of years. They've shown us, they've given us a little bit, and we've been like ready to roll the dice and throw it in. But this is the first time I think they've really showed me, at least against a team that had higher rankings, higher expectations, all those things. And Blake Corum's a stud. He's a stud, bro. So
he's an absolute stud. Mike Loxley's a great coach, man. I just got to say that. And you're right. It's taken a little while to build. And I think if you're a Maryland fan, or if you're somebody who follows that program, you had to have a little patience with it. And it wasn't always pretty, but the collection of talent that he has on that offense it's going to keep you competitive, but I don't think enough people are talking about the improvements they've made defensively. And they made a coordinator change very late in the year last year, and you started to see them turn the corner in the last couple of games. And, I think that's a big part of this process as well is, they had a couple of big plays defensively, and they missed some too. I mean, there were some drop picks that they had, that if they get 1 or 2 of those, it might be a different outcome as well. But just a full team effort out of them, and they come up short. But looking at the Michigan side of this game, I think it starts with Blake Corum. You're 100% right. And One of my takeaways is they got two young offensive coordinators, and I think they went off script to try things just to try them, not necessarily because they were there. And that meant going away from Corum a little bit. And that's a guy, I mean, he had a high volume of carries anyway. He had 30 carries and almost 250 yards in that game. But you probably could have given him 5 or 6 more, and it looked like he could have shouldered that load. And it could have kept you out of some situations where you're putting the ball in the hands of your young quarterback or some younger running backs who they're more prone to make mistakes. And then as I look at Michigan defensively too, this was a big test for their new defensive coordinator. And even though it was the same system, it's a different play caller and some different guys playing over on that side of the football. And I thought that some of the adjustments that they made toward the end of the game were it shows you that side of the football is going to be a really good unit by the end of the year. So you're able to escape in this one with a close victory, which makes it easier to coach this upcoming week because you can get on the guys a little bit and talk about the things that could have changed the outcome of the game, even though you got the victory. But I look at this Michigan team, not a lot of my opinions change about them. Really, this, I think, is more of a statement by Maryland and the trajectory of that program than it is an indictment on Michigan. And
that's a great point.
Played poorly. I think Michigan played a good football game. I think Maryland's a better team than anybody thought they were coming into this one.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that's all that needs to be said. Maryland has really, like I said earlier, turned the corner, in my opinion. Excited to see, again, just more depth in the East. Like, we keep going back to the East being a beast. Like, just more depth in the East is going to be really good for college football. So excited they got back on track. And to your point, I don't think anything's changed with Michigan. You know, you're gonna hit these speed bumps, you're gonna hit these road bumps, and you do got to be able to win these types of games, right? And that, you know, I hate to beat a dead horse. Last year, you know, they learned that they could, and they did. Change at the guy running the show on the offensive side of the ball, learning a little bit about him. This is good. Like I said, this is going to be a good, valuable experience for him heading down the road.
A lot of value in it, ton of value in it. And the good teams will win the ugly ones. You know, you don't want it to be ugly. I know Michigan fans are probably on edge a little bit during that game, but the good teams win the ugly ones, and they got this one. I just want to talk about this game very briefly because when we get into big storylines, I got one for each of the teams. But like I said, I was on the call for the Minnesota-Michigan State game. And from basically the first snap of the game, you could tell that Minnesota was just going to control the whole thing. And Michigan State got nothing. And I was pretty shocked because I thought Michigan State could put up a better fight. And I thought Minnesota could be stunned at least early on in the game in this step up in personnel and in competition. And they weren't at all. Were you as shocked as I was that this game was so lopsided and so out of control from the beginning?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I've been calling Minnesota from the beginning. I think physically at the lines of scrimmage, they can play with anybody in the Big Ten and quite possibly in the country. And I think Michigan State last week showed me a chink in their armor per se. You look at a guy like Mel Tucker, and I think he really turned that thing around very heavily in the transfer portal. And it's not so much the way that the team plays or the talent they have. It's more so, well, let me backtrack on that one. It's not necessarily about the talent that Michigan State has. It's more so about the way that they've played. Sure. And I think it goes back to when you bring a bunch of guys in, Mel hasn't had the opportunity to develop an identity internally within his program yet in terms of toughness. You could do it, but when you're still just trying to like slap duct tape on holes and pull things in to get the talent back to where it needs to be, you're going to be sacrificing that in some way, shape, or form. I think that there was definitely a hangover from them getting their face kicked in against Washington last week.
Yeah.
Coming into this game, you saw some puppy dog eyes and some tails between the legs. And Michigan State typically doesn't do that. Minnesota on the other side of that has been a team that has just been right here, very strong foundationally within their beliefs and their core values as a program.
Yeah.
And I think it was just kind of like a perfect storm of a wounded animal running into something that's been well fed and ready to roll. So I think Michigan State needs to do a little bit of soul searching there. They ran a really good wave last year. I think it was a lot of momentum and it was a lot of good bounces going their way. And I think it, like I said, just with the lack of stability and foundation internally as a program. Now, I'm not talking X's and O's. I'm just talking program identity. You're going to have to roll the dice with taking, what happened last year and what's probably going to happen this year. And figure out how to balance that out. That's just my like 50,000 foot view on it. And again, has absolutely really nothing to do with football. I think it's just more so, you got to give Coach Tucker some time to get the right pieces in there and the right pillars in that locker room.
Yeah, I think the best way that I can sum up these two teams at this point is, and it goes back to what you said about the transfer portal. I just think that's a really intelligent point of view and the way that PJ Fleck has built his program, because Michigan State, the players do not embody the personality of their head coach. That team does not embody the personality of Mel Tucker, because we sat with him for damn near an hour on Friday. And I may have only asked within that hour 6 or 7 questions, and he just gave us information, impassioned, emphatic, very direct. And I know that's how he communicates with this team, because I've seen him in meetings and I've seen him in practice, and they don't have that on the field. Whereas Minnesota is everything that PJ Fleck is. Yep. They go out on the football field and they embody what their head coach preaches, his behavior, his mannerisms, all of that. And that is the biggest difference, because both of these guys try to achieve the same thing in very similar ways in terms of motivation and communication. And maybe Mel Tucker isn't as, as some people like to say, high schooly with it, the way that PJ is with all the sloganeering and everything. But these guys are high motivation, very direct communicators. They like up tempo. They want guys with passion and fire. And Minnesota's got those guys right now, and that's what their team identity is. And Michigan State is still trying to bring those guys along. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, defensively, they're missing some great players. Xavier Henderson in their secondary, he's a true leader. That's a guy who's been around for 5 years. He's a great player too, just like fundamentally sound, and a guy who gets things right when it's going wrong. He's not out there. Darius Snow at linebacker is also not in the game plan, and he was their adjuster at linebacker, the one who could really make issues for offenses. And then up front, Jacob Slade in the middle of their defense. He's a guy who went to Olentangy High School, which is where I graduated from too, so I got to give him a little bit of credit, but he's been a really good player for them for some years. And those guys are all out. That hurts. But outside of that, there's not one person on that roster that I felt like was out there either on the field or on the sideline ready to take control of that team, and that's the most disappointing thing to me.
Yeah, and for me, just looking at it, the quarterback position is the one that everyone looks at to do that. And I think Peyton, I don't know if it was, again, him being sore from last week, because he did take a little bit of a beating or whatever, but it just, even last week, there was, he just had a very nonchalant type of attitude towards how things were going. And I get that, like, sometimes, you don't want to show that. And I don't want to, just because I've been in those shoes and I understand probably his thought process there, I'm not trying to bash the kid. I'm just saying that usually, take that into the next week. There's a different approach. There's a different feel, because what was going on last week, the week before, obviously wasn't working. So there's a different approach, different feel. Try to motivate the guys. I don't think I really saw that. And again, I don't want to take any credit away from Minnesota, because they came out and handled business and took advantage of an opportunity. Right. So I'm stoked for this Minnesota team.
I'm going to get back on that Peyton Thorne topic here once we get into big storylines, and we'll do that right now and kind of mesh the Ohio State game into that. But I mentioned the score of that 52-21 over Wisconsin, and we knew that this offense was phenomenal, and they're down Jackson Smith and Jigba still, and it really doesn't matter to them. They're just rolling out guys. It's like a wide receiver factory over there, and I mean, I've been inside that program, obviously, under Urban Meyer, and I've watched Ryan Day go to work, and I am shocked. And we had some great players when I was there, but I am like thoroughly shocked at the way that they have been able to produce offensive guys. And so it begs the question, and I would love to hear this from the perspective of a guy who played the quarterback position. How in the hell do you stop this Ohio State offense? What do you do?
You know, I've hit on this a couple times, and it's very similar to like a USC right now. Defenses are between a rock and a hard place. And when you have a guy like Ryan Day who understands that offensively, as long as you don't get greedy and kind of back the defense into a corner and make them show their hand, which you can do formationally, which you can do with the personnel they have, you really can't dedicate two hats to any one player on that football field. Am I wrong?
I mean,
defensively,
you can't do it.
And if you do, then you're losing a hat in the run game, and they got three guys in the back behind CJ that can tote that thing, and they got guys up front that are moving it. So it's like when you're sitting here looking at Ohio State, it's almost like we gotta play bend don't break football, be gap sound, understand that we're gonna take it in the chin a couple times and hope they give us something, or you have to literally have the dudes outside that can match up consistently to where you're like, all right, I can trust three of these guys one-on-one 70% of the game.
You can't do it though. Nobody has the guys like that.
And nobody has that.
I mean, Georgia might have some, but like, I don't think anybody else really has them.
Not all game. But the thing is if you have those guys, then it allows you to take more risks than the average defense out there from a talent collection standpoint. Like, if you happen to get Ohio State behind the sticks or off schedule, then you can throw something at them saying, all right, guys, we need two plays where you guys hold up on the back end. Right.
Yeah.
And if you have the guys, you can do that. But it's just ultimately it comes down to the Jimmies and Joes. And then like defensively, you need to be able to just sit there and play sound and play the long game. Because you really offensive football, playing defensive football is hard, and playing defensive football at a high level is really hard. And when you have an offense that can do everything like they can, and to your point, I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who might be the best, if not one of the best college football players in America, has not been a factor really yet. Yeah. Which is scary. So
it's nuts. Yeah. I mean, I waffle back and forth on it, because I think they're the two biggest things right now with Ohio State, that it's really a threefold thing that make them so unstoppable offensively. The run game is working, and Ryan Day is committed to running the football right now. And I think those two things are important. As the offensive line is much better, those running backs are running with passion, but like, Ryan Day he's made a commitment that he is going to run the football early, and he's going to do it often. And you can't just try to sit there and say, okay, they are a great passing team. Maybe they're not a great running team. Like we can try to maybe, use more resources to defend the pass. They're not doing that. Second thing is CJ Stroud is in his second year as a starter. And a year ago, some of the drop 8 looks, a year ago, some of the blitz patterns that were more exotic made him hold the ball for a beat, or made him a little bit antsier in the pocket. And last year, when he had to get into scramble drill mode, he wasn't a great quarterback. And this year he's a great quarterback regardless of the situation. So it makes it that much harder to defend. And then the third thing, and this has really come on in the last 2 weeks, but Cade Stover playing tight end. Now you've got that other weapon out there, and it's not just the wide receivers, but it's like, how are we going to match up on this guy? Because he is a physical point of attack tight end who can run like a damn deer. And now it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because I was a 250-pound linebacker, so you like the size, but I wasn't running with that cat all game long. But these safeties, he's going to bully them. He's going to go up in high point of football on those guys. Like, I have no idea what you do with that kid.
And that's why I said, I mean, if you add that in there, now you're mixing different personnels and you're getting even more of an advantage in the run game. Like and then play action becomes a big thing. Yep. So this offense is, we've talked about it preseason, and I think you bring up a great point, is Ryan Day's commitment to running the football as opposed to the past few years where I think he's gotten very, very pass happy in certain situations, especially in tight games. But that's like most quarterback coaches. I'm going to defend him here. Most previous quarterbacks want to do that. So I'll defend him on that one. But
for sure,
the growth from that standpoint, from a play caller's perspective, is huge. And I think that just makes this team that much more dangerous. And if they can continue to grow, man, I'm telling you, they are a serious, serious national championship contender.
Yeah. And the final thing I'll say is, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm probably trotting out quarters defense. It's good in the run. It's good in the pass. And I am going to make them be extremely patient. I'm going to test CJ Stroud and Ryan Day's patience to march the length of the field, just taking what we're giving them. If you can throw those 5-yard outs and be comfortable doing that, and you can march down the field, and we're not going to let the ball go over our head, and we're going to play pretty stout in the run game, you might get a 3 or 4 yard gain on the ground, but you're not breaking a big one. I'm going to see how many times you can really be patient and do that without trying to take the shot and then putting yourself in a 2nd and 10 situation. Like, I really want to test if you can do that. And I think that is the best way to give yourself a chance, because when you start trying to get exotic and you start trying new things, and you do anything that isn't structurally sound, you do anything that puts too many guys on a freaking island, you're in some trouble. Right. But outside of that, there's not an answer. Like, there's not a place where I say, you attack this weakness and you have an advantage defensively. It does not exist to me at this moment. Maybe it'll be exposed down the line. Maybe there's a coordinator out there, Phil Parker, when they go to play Iowa. He's a mad scientist. He's a genius guy who finds what the weakness is. But to me, I'm not exactly sure.
Well, it's kind of funny you say that. I mean, they don't really get exotic. I mean,
they're quarters and cover
quarters. They hold it down and they say, this is who we are. And we're going to play sound. We're going to be gap sound. We're going to be structurally sound and go. So, we'll see that here soon. Maybe at some point, I don't know if they play this year, actually. Take that back. But, I think it's kind of like the old Indianapolis defense when they knew they had Peyton Manning on the other side. Like, they just played quarters, and they're like, Peyton's going to score us 38. We just got to get one stop. That's kind of how you have to have an offense like that on the back end to keep up, which, not a lot of teams have. But I mean, that's pretty much your only prayer defensively. And I don't even know if you're going to find a chink in the armor. There's going to be a mismatch. Someone's going to screw up every once in a while, but I don't think it's going to be one of those things where you can sit there and say, as a team, confidently to your unit is in a defensive meeting headed into that game, we're going to attack Ohio State right here because this is where they're deficient. Like, no, nah, man. Like, we got to go make some plays.
Yeah. Let me get on this Michigan State thing again real quick. You mentioned Peyton Thorne and kind of his mentality and demeanor out on the football field. Here's my defense for Peyton Thorne. These last 2 football games, they have not been able to get any type of offensive rhythm, because by time, they were starting to pick it up on offense against Washington, that game was totally out of hand, and PJ Fleck kept the Michigan State offense off the field. They had one drive at one point in that game that was 10 minutes long, and I was up in the booth. My jaw was on the freaking ground. Like, I've seen some long drives, but 10 minutes is so freaking deflating. Like, it's suffocating. Oh, yeah. And so for Peyton Thorne, like, he is in as bad of a spot as anybody on that Michigan State team, because he doesn't even get enough chances to touch the football to actually get that offense going in any type of rhythm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I wish you were around when I was playing, man. Shit, that defense was pretty good right there. I like that for you. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I think when you look at a guy like Peyton Thorne, he's been around for a few years now. You would expect, if you're going to look at one guy on your roster to pull you out of that and say, okay, hey, we're not getting 10 chances this week. We're getting 8. We got to make them count and be the guy to kind of try to be the catalyst of that, and at least get it to permeate throughout your entire unit. I think that's where I think you would expect a little bit more from a veteran player like that. But again, like I think was Washington game wasn't much that he could do. And then this game, I watched a little bit of it. Didn't get the chance to watch a ton of it. So I'm going to take your word for it from there. But yeah, I mean, I just think that's more of where I was going with it. Is you got one guy that you can trust on that offensive side of the ball that has the experience to pull them out of it. I think it would be Peyton, and I don't know if he's been able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, these cats had they had 2 drives in the first quarter. They had 2 drives in the second quarter. They touched the ball twice in the third quarter, and in the fourth quarter, they had 3. We call it 2 drives. The third drive really wasn't a drive. And in the game, they had 45 plays total. And I think up until the start of the fourth quarter, they had like 37 plays. And when the game was actually important,
no, that's rough, dude.
I'm gonna defend the guy. I wish I could have been a media guy when you were playing. I would have defended you too. Like it's hard to play quarterback in that situation, bro. But flip it over to Minnesota, and we'll keep it brief on this one. Mm-hmm. You picking them to win the West right now? Like, can you just say like it's over?
I mean, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not that guy that says it's over. It's over. But
I'm that guy that says it's over.
If I'm putting my money somewhere, it's with Minnesota, just because Wisconsin. Defensively, sure, they're going to be sound, but we're going to go back to what we were talking about on the offensive side of the ball. Graham's been too up and down for me, man. He showed that's kind of been his whole thing up there. So yeah, I mean, Minnesota's got a veteran guy pulling the trigger in Tanner Morgan. I think Mo is playing very well. They're going to dominate the line of scrimmage, and to me, if you can figure all that out, you're good. And Tanner keeps taking advantage of the play action and things like that in that RPO system the way he has been. Team's gonna be a problem, man. So yeah, I mean, I'm all in on Minnesota winning the West this year.
Yep, I'm calling it right now. They're going to win the West. And my other team, my preseason pick, outside of Minnesota, I had Purdue just a spot ahead of them, and I'm a freaking idiot sandwich for doing that. So I'll take that one right on the chin. But I'm riding Minnesota. I'm calling it today. They're winning the West. And if I'm going to give you another hot take on this show, I think their biggest challenger in the West right now is the Fighting Illini. I think Purdue has made too many errors. They've proven to me that they're going to be stubborn and make some mistakes. I look at Iowa, and sure, I love the defense and special teams. That offense is abysmal. They're not going to be able to score enough points. They're just not going to be able to do it. And I look at Wisconsin, and I'm with you. Like, is Graham Mertz going to give you some good games? Yes. Is he also going to give you some freaking snoozers? Absolutely. I don't trust them. And you look at the other teams in there in Northwestern and Nebraska, they're cooked. They're both cooked. So Minnesota right now winning the West, done deal.
I like it. And I think Illinois is an interesting one. I agree with you. I think they're playing really well. I'm still not done with Purdue. I still think Purdue's going to beat somebody that they shouldn't. And no,
I put too much hope in them.
And they're going to be in it at the end. Last week Aiden wasn't playing. I'm going to go back to my guy here. Aiden wasn't playing. He's their only hope.
They have pissed me off I mean, first game, go down there, have a chance to win. You decide you don't want to run the football. I'm fine with that. Hey, let's play cover 0. Just totally expose ourselves, and our linebacker is going to run up the field like he's got a free run at the quarterback and not peel, because we're just going to forget our base fundamentals right there at the end of the game and lose that one. And then we got Syracuse, and not only are players going to get personal foul and sportsmanlike penalties, our coach is going to get one too. We're going to get 50 yards of penalties in the last 50 seconds of the game. We're going to get a yard of penalties per second left in the game because we want to make this one interesting. And then what are we going to do? We're going to play some cover 1, because why spell our guys? Why give our guys a little bit of a break? Why protect them in the back?
They went 0 again, didn't they?
They might have gone 0.
By 0. They got smoked by 0 twice.
We're going to put guys on islands.
Yeah.
And then we're going to play FAU, and we're just going to make that game as interesting as we can make it. Jeff Brom, I love it. I love the story. I love that program that he's built. I don't think they're a bad football team, but they're doing too many things right now that are just they're making my
you're burned out. You're burned out on
this.
Purdue right now. You're burned out on Purdue right now.
Can't put any of my mental energy into them anymore. I'm done with it. It's been too much of an emotional roller coaster. So I'm on the Minnesota train.
I'll keep them in my pocket. I'm on the Minnesota train as well too, but I think when we look up in 4 weeks, Purdue's still going to be in the mix. Somehow, some way, Purdue's going to be in the mix. Unless it's just a clear runaway by Minnesota, Purdue's still going to, be in there, in my opinion.
They're a good football team. I was going off on a. No,
I know. I like your tangent.
Yeah, but
bring that same energy.
They're a good football team. They've just done things right now that just gives me heartburn.
That bad football teams do. Bad football teams do.
All right, let's get into preview here. Let me see if I can get myself back on track emotionally. You got Michigan favored by 11, visiting Iowa. The over-under on this is 42. This is a noon game, typically Kinnick at night, and I never played there, period, but that includes at night, is a house of horrors, and Michigan gets the luxury of not having to do that. This, to me, is a big patience game for J.J. McCarthy. This is a quarterback who wants to dazzle. This is a quarterback who feeds off of the big play, and this is the wrong defense to try to do either one of those things against. You need to just go out there and quarterback. Manage the game, if you will. Turn around, hand off the pill, take what is given to you schematically, and don't do any more than that, or else you are going to find yourself in a disgusting situation.
Yeah. And I don't even think it's game management. Like, everyone uses and throws that term around, and I'm not taking a shot at you here, JP, but
take a shot.
It's playing the position, bro. Like, when people go out and you have the ability to take shots, it's because the defense is giving you that. So take advantage of it. When the defense isn't giving you that, like you said, take the check down, take the 5-yard out, be able to get the guys into the best looks at the line of scrimmage based upon, pre-snap alignment, things of that nature. Do what you got to do and play the position and own it, right? And I agree with you. I think JJ's got a really good opportunity here because this Iowa defense still somehow, some way is figuring out ways to score touchdowns for the 7th, 8th straight year now, and bail their ass out of games. So to that point, play the position, own it, and you're going to see if he has the patience. I mean, it is a patience tester for him. You hit the nail on the head with that. You're going to see if he has the patience and the maturity to hold back and the self-control to hold back and just take what they're giving him. If they do that, ultimately, Michigan will run away with this game. It may be close for halftime, maybe a little bit into the third quarter, but something will break, and they will run away with this football game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You've got Purdue visiting Minnesota. Minnesota is favored by 12, over under 52.5. All betting lines provided by Bet Rivers Sportsbook here. Jeff Brom is being pretty tight-lipped about Aiden O'Connell's availability. I don't necessarily blame him. That's going to be a huge difference maker in this one to me. But the way that Minnesota has played and what they have displayed their identity to be, and especially against a team that if Aiden O'Connell plays, like it's certainly going to be pass happy. They ran the ball a lot more against FAU, but their identity, Purdue, is to throw the football. It plays right into Minnesota's hands, because if they can get Purdue off of the field, if they can limit them on early downs, like, I mean, they're just going to turn around and hand the ball off to Mo, eat up the clock. And this one could be another one of those suffocating type games.
Yeah, no, I definitely see it. And to your point, I think if Aiden plays and Purdue goes out and executes, it could be one of those ones where maybe they push. I'll play the devil's advocate here. Maybe they push Minnesota to try to be something they're not. If they can get up quick and they can execute on these first couple drives, get some points, maybe force Minnesota to try and get in that chase mode. I don't know if Minnesota necessarily is that undisciplined from a coaching staff standpoint, though, to do that.
I don't think they are.
I think they're going to trust what they're doing. But I think if Purdue wants to have a shot here, Aiden obviously has to be playing, and they have to take advantage of opportunities when they have them, more so than they have been even so far into this year. I watched the Syracuse game, watched the Penn State game. They got to take advantage of opportunities when they get them, and try to force Minnesota to be something they're not.
Yeah, totally with you on that. And then a couple others to keep your eye on. Michigan State at Maryland. Maryland favored by 8, over under 60 on this one. Leah Tungavailoa and Rakim Jarrett are both going to be game time decisions. Mike Locksley announced that yesterday. I still don't think that Michigan State would have an advantage, even if those two guys weren't in the game plan, just based off of what I've seen so far. So their biggest hope is that those guys cannot go. This Maryland team coming off of a close loss to Michigan, I think if Mike Locksley couches that the right way, that is a real momentum builder, because he can point to probably 2 or 3 critical plays in that game, special teams and defense, certainly, and then maybe an interception where he's like, dude, listen, we make these 3 plays and we might win this one by 10 points. So it feels like Maryland is in a window right now to pick up some more wins in conference, and to maybe put some people on notice.
I agree with you. I mean, I think you brought up a great point. First play, spot them 7 points, and that right there is pretty much the difference in the game as we speak here from last week. So yeah, I think I'll be really tuned in to watch this, because I think it'll show a lot of maturity in Maryland if they do come out and handle business the way that they're supposed to. Because again, I've got scars from Maryland, similarly to how you feel, I think, about Purdue right now, just watching Maryland go up and down and be this and be that, and then get their doors blown in, and then just watch the season kind of fold. I think this game's going to tell a lot about the direction that Mike Locksley has that program going, and the maturity and growth of that team overall, top to bottom.
Yeah. And then finally, Illinois at Wisconsin. Wisconsin favored by 7. Over-unders 43. I'll take Illinois outright in this game. Brett Bielema going back to Madison. I know it's going to be a ruckus environment there, even though it is Illinois and Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's good defensively, not necessarily the great defensive teams that we've seen. Their offense leaves a lot to be desired. The game plan is pretty simple to me. Is offensively, they're going to be able to spread Wisconsin out. It's just about protecting the football, so you can't fumble it, you can't throw interceptions. A lot easier said than done. And then I'm simply playing an 8-man box, and I'm going to say, Graham Mertz, if you can consistently beat me over the top, and you can find one-on-one matchups where your guys are kicking the shit out of my guys on a consistent basis, you'll win this football game. And if not, we are going to bottle up your running backs. They're not going to get loose, and your quarterback is going to have to slice us and dice us, and he's going to have to throw really accurate passes in single coverage, and he's going to have to do it consistently. That's the game plan. I think Illinois wins the game.
Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen, from Joshua Perry. I agree. I agree with a lot of your points. I'm curious to see, and I'll be definitely watching this one.
Yeah, that one's going to be a low-key, under-the-radar, really fun game. Before we get you out of here, I got to ask you. So I'm a guy who is really in tune to fashion. I read GQ magazine. I enjoy shopping. My closet is vast, full of different styles and colors of clothing. One of the things that I have embraced, and it's starting to go away, we're starting to swing back. But I wore the Italian fit skinny suits. I still wear them, even though I'm gonna probably get more on train with the more loose fit suits now are coming back with the pleated pants. I think it's a good look, but I embrace the skinny pants, and that goes along with the skinny jeans. I have been a skinny jean guy since about 2010. I still wear them to this day. Christian Hackenberg, have you ever and do you currently own a pair of skinny pants?
I have one pair of jeans. And I guess I have some more like athletic slim fitting stuff, but I really only have like 2 seasons. I'm flip-flops and shorts, or I'm jeans and boots. And then I have my suits and stuff. Like, I'm on there with you. Like, I've evolved. I've gone up and down through that scale of things, because I do need to look good sometimes. But I'm really boots, jeans, t-shirt guy. Like when it's fall, winter.
Boot cut jeans then.
No, I usually go with like a straight, I don't look ridiculous. Like, I go with like a straight with a little, a little taper. And then usually I try to find ones that aren't going to like suffocate the top of the boot. But like, I mean, I think you'd be surprised if that's what I'm going at. I think you'd be like, oh, like, yeah, he's got a little bit of something to him from that side of things.
You said you have one pair of jeans.
Yeah,
one pair properly.
One pair of skinny jeans, ones that I would say like are definitely skinny. Like, I got big calves, so like they suffocate my calves. Like, that freaks me out.
Yeah, you can see my hamstrings through my jeans. As a matter of fact, that's how tight I like to wear the pants. And I prefer a slack, a chino with a little bit of stretch to it, because I do have some meatier thighs, but I also like the streamlined look. So let's say you're getting dressed up, you're going to a charity event, suit and tie is required. What is the ensemble like? Give me the suit color, tie color, shirt color, what kind of belt, what kind of shoes. Like, paint me a picture of what this outfit looks like.
Yeah. It's going to depend a lot on the season. Like fallish. I like the brown suits. A traditional quarterback Penn State guy. I can't go wrong with like my blue suit. I have a few of those actually. The navy blues with the whites, and then red tie, maybe something like that. Go like super traditional. I'm a big loafer guy. When I can. I don't like a lot of. I don't like the more traditional dress shoes. I'm a big loafer guy, or I'll wear my boots. I do have a nice pair of suede, kind of more bottlenecked cowboy boots. Suede belt to match. You got to match the shoes and the belt. Absolutely. That's how you do it. So I know what I'm talking about a little bit there. And then I usually just trust my wife from that point on. Like, I get the core principle down, and I say, all right, Tatum, like put the finishing touches on this for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good go-to move. My wife studied fashion retail at Ohio State, so she helps me kind of round out the details, but I like to take control. How many suits do you think you own?
Well, I own a few, plenty, enough.
What's a few? Like, put a number around it.
I don't know. Probably 10 to 20, somewhere in there.
Okay, all right.
Combinations.
That's a great number. I have I believe 18 suits. My goal was to be able to go on football Saturdays and not repeat an outfit the whole season if I didn't want to. And I'm all over the spectrum, probably more color than you would embrace. Most people wouldn't do it either, but I've got everything from teal to purple to green. I've got one that's a green with a purple window pane on it. One of my favorite suits. I've got the different weights. I've got summer weights, winter weights. I've got the linings and the canvas all figured out, so I'm not sweating my balls off when it's too hot. But if I got to be outside and it's cold, I can make sure that I can, I don't have to necessarily have more than a scarf and a pair of gloves. But I've learned about you that you're a little bit more of a Renaissance man than I imagined you were. You've got this rugged background, I mean, and here we are, 10 to 20 suits, different combos, some suede shoes, and we're matching the belt with the shoes. Like you got more layers than I anticipated, my guy.
I do. I'm not a very thick onion, but I definitely do got some, I know what I can do things appropriately. I read the room,
Not a very thick onion, but I got some layers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this is it's always a treat when we do this show. All right. This was the JP and Hack Show, part of the Field of 12 Media Network, sponsored by Bet Rivers, my guy Christian Hackenberg, always holding it down with the great football knowledge. Merely Joshua Perry over here. We'll be back next week. Got some great games that we'll be recapping, and we can't wait to do it again. See you later.